Welcome back, everybody. We are the Video Store Junkies, and this is Q-Tips, and we are back to recommend a few things for you to watch over the weekend on streaming. And I am going to pass this over to Zach.
Oh, thank you, Renee. Well, September is here. Fall is right around the corner, which can only mean one thing: winter is coming. And appropriately enough, I think that with all of this, with all the crazy weather that the world has been experiencing over the last few years, some of us may be in for what could be called the storm of the century, which is appropriate because that's my first recommendation. It's Storm of the Century, the 1999 made-for-TV film, which was not based on a Stephen King book or story, but was written by Stephen King. It's one of his rare made-for-TV efforts. And this is from a time when Stephen King was huge. You guys probably remember this, when there was good, actually I guess it was most of the 90s, where every few years there would be a Stephen King adaptation or a TV movie. They did a bunch of these, starting with It. And this was kind of a weird one because, like I said, it was not based on a previous work. It was an original work. And this one, I actually have, it's been forever. It's been literally, I don't know, when was 1999? 12 years ago? It's been since then. I'm just kidding. It's been since 1999 since I watched this. So I was like, this is very interesting because it came on Hulu. And I don't think this has ever been streaming anywhere. It's like, oh, I gotta check this out because I gotta see if it's as good as I remember it, because I remember enjoying it when it was on. And I'm pleased to announce I've actually only watched the first episode, or the first installment, because there are 3 installments. It's 4.5 hours long, and but so far so good. The film is about a mysterious stranger played by Colm Feore, who comes to Little Tall Island just as it is being hit by the titular storm of the century. And he wants something from the islanders. In fact, he tells them, "Give me what I want and I'll go away." But he doesn't actually tell them what he wants immediately. Instead, he just starts killing people and acting all weird. So, like I said, it's a pretty fun movie. I mean, it's definitely a 90s made-for-TV movie, but I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. I'm just kind of tempering expectations. But it's still pretty good, especially if you like Stephen King. I mean, it's one of those things where if you're a Stephen King completionist, it's definitely worth watching because it's way better than a lot of things that are based on his actual works. So, again, Colm Feore's in it. I love Colm Feore. This is actually the first thing I saw him in, but I'm a huge fan of his. And it also features Jeffrey DeMunn as one of the the town manager, and I kind of love it because he's actually not a lovable character like he is in a lot of the stuff he's in. He's actually kind of an asshole in this, so it's kind of fun. But anyways, again, the name of the movie, it's a miniseries, I guess, actually, a 3-part miniseries. It is Storm of the Century. Like I said, it's playing on Hulu right now. And speaking of people who are usually lovable, but it's kind of fun when they're assholes, Paul, what is your first recommendation for this week?
Well, let me say, I do remember Storm of the Century. I don't think I actually saw it when it came out, so I'll have.
Oh,
It's good that I can actually catch
yeah.
it. So that sounds good. Well, for mine, let me take you back. No one would have believed in the last years of the 19th century that human affairs were being watched by the timeless worlds of space. No one could have dreamed that we were being scrutinized as some with microscopic studies creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. Few men even considered the possibility of life on other planets, and yet, across the gulf of space, minds immeasurably superior to ours regarded this Earth with envious eyes, and slowly and surely they drew their plans against us. That's right, I'm doing 1953's The War of the Worlds, based on H.G. Wells' classic novel of alien invasion. It is on Amazon Prime, Paramount Plus, Epix, and DirecTV, and stars Gene Barry and Ann Robinson. And I just love this movie. They've updated the story to the 1950s, and it is, which is when it was filmed, 1953. And this thing scarred me as a child. It is fantastic. Still holds up. Still scary as hell. Scared me as a kid. When I remember being scarred by this, watching it on TV. You can still remember hearing the sound of the alien machines, and just the look of the you only see them briefly, and then you see their hands at the end, but it's enough. it's really effective. It really works. I think they capture the story and the feel of it. And it's well worth checking out if you never checked it out. And that's War of the Worlds from 1953 on Amazon Prime, Paramount Plus, Epix, and DirecTV. And talking about Gene Barry, one of Gene Barry's biggest fans, I'll pass this to Renee. Uh-oh.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't unmute myself. And I just made a great joke about being a berry head. And anyway, so man, I'm really waffling on which one of my movies to recommend first because it's like, which one is better than the others? I don't know. But I'm going to do this one first because my sister specifically, she demanded that somebody recommend this movie because she loved it that much. And this movie is from 2014 and it is called Doll Factory. That's right.
Yay!
Yeah, that's right. I got another doll movie for you. So this movie is so goofy. It's like a horror comedy, of course. These kids break into this abandoned, I think it's a factory. And of course, you know, these kids, they break into things. They do all these satanic rituals like all the kids do. And, you know, they summoned up some evil killer dolls. So, yeah, that's my recommendation. And if Bill was here, I could, you know, have him tell stories about how it's never good to go into abandoned buildings. Anyway, you should watch Doll Factory. And it's on Fubo, Vudu, Tubi, Crackle, and Plex. And I'm going to pass this over to Zach.
Oh, thank you. Well, my first recommendation, there's definitely a lot of mystery in Storm of the Century. So I guess I'm kind of doing a theme today because my second recommendation is also on Hulu and also involves a lot of mystery. In fact, it revolves around mystery podcasts because three people who live in the same building in New York who don't really know each other are kind of brought together when they discover their love of a true crime podcast. Conveniently enough, right before someone in their building is murdered. The name of the show is Only Murders in the Building, and the cast is phenomenal. You got Steve Martin, okay? You got Martin Short. Okay, right there, I mean, that's a perfect show. You also got Selena Gomez, who I wouldn't have cared about at all until before I watched this show, but she actually does a really good job in this, and it's really fun to see her with these, you know, two kind of old comedy pros. But it's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's a kind of a true crime, or I should say a mystery revolving around this true crime where they are basically trying to solve this murder. So the person that was killed in their building, that's the first season, and it only goes on from there, and the second season gets a little bit crazier. But not only does it star Steve Martin and Martin Short, who, like I said, are just, I mean, I love them so much in this. They're such a treat to watch. But there are also a ton of cameos that I actually don't really want to spoil them, but let's just say you'll definitely recognize some of the people who show up in this show. And some of them have some very interesting cameos. Some of them cameo as themselves. And there are kind of like meta commentaries on that. So I don't know. It's kind of fun. So once again, the name of the show is Only Murders in the Building. It's 2 seasons now. I started watching it like a week ago and I binged both seasons because it's just so much fun. I just could not stop watching. And both of those seasons are streaming on Hulu right now. So speaking of people that like podcasts, at least I hope he does because he's on one quite a bit. Paul, what is your second recommendation?
My second recommendation is also an invasion film. This is The Adventures of Buckaroo Bonsai Across the Eighth Dimension from 1984. Well, an intention for it. Yeah, there are aliens, sort of, and dimensional crossing. It is currently playing on Hoopla, Amazon Prime, Paramount Plus, Epix, and DirecTV, and I think even Sling TV. So 1984, this stars Peter Weller as the titular Buckaroo Bonsai, who is a, let's see, what is he? He's a neurosurgeon slash test pilot slash musician, of course, rock musician, and he's got his group, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, that go on basically adventures with them, and he runs into John Lithgow, who plays, is a little bit of a spoiler, Emil Lizardo / Lord John Wharfen. You've got Ellen Barkin, who's the love interest as Penny Pretty. You've got Jeff Goldblum as New Jersey. You've got Christopher Lloyd is even in there as John Big Butte. Clancy Brown is Rawhide. Fantastic, fun, off the wall, bizarre science fiction, eminently quotable. Don't necessarily try to make sense of it because that's not where the fun is. It is. There was actually, it's kind of funny because like it's one of those things like, oh, see, here's why this thing's in there. Like people, go into the lore of it. Don't because it's more fun just to go, what the hell was that? Why was there a watermelon there? It is just so much fun. I remember seeing this in high school, being absolutely in love with it. Watched it since then, still in love with it. Super fun, super quotable. The Adventures of Buckaroo Bonsai across the eighth dimension. Again, don't try to necessarily make sense of it, but just watch it and love it for what it is. And speaking of going across the eighth dimension, I'll pass this to Renee.
Well, hello. So now you guys might not have known this about me. I'm a big fan of Steve Guttenberg, and I've always kind of rooted for him to, have his big Hollywood comeback. And, I think he's on his way. There was a movie he was in 2015 called Lava Lantula. And this movie is pretty great. It's like it's like Sharknado with spiders. And it's in the mountains of Santa Monica, there is an ancient volcano that erupts and lava lantulas come out, and it is up to Colton West, sort of a washed up actor, to come in and save the day. That's it. It's a lot of fun. It's super goofy, but it actually has like a kind of decent storyline under it. Has a lot of cameos. It has a little police academy reunion happening, and those kind of things always appeal to me. I'm very sentimental in that regard. So, and it was directed by Mike Mendez, who directs one of my other favorite movies, Big Ass Spider. So again, this movie is Lava Lantula. It is available on Tubi, Peacock, Roku, Vudu, Fubo, and a whole crap ton of other places. So, I think that's it. Does anyone have a song to sing us out with?
I actually have there were a couple choices actually for mine. I'm going to do like the entire Jeff Wayne War of the Worlds, rock opera, but I figured that'd be a little too long. So instead, I'm going to do the closing theme to Buckaroo Bonsai.
For the weekend of September 9th, Zachary recommended Storm of the Century, available on Hulu, and Only Murders in the Building, also available on Hulu. Paul recommended War of the Worlds, 1953, available on Prime Video, Paramount Plus, Epix, and DirecTV. And The Adventures of Buckaroo Bonsai Across the Eighth Dimension, available on Amazon Prime, Paramount Plus, Epix, and DirecTV. I recommended Doll Factory, available on Tubi, Fubo, Vudu, Crackle, and Plex, and Lava Lantula, available on Tubi, Vudu, the Roku channel, Peacock, Fubo, and Redbox.